Oh, what a way to end off the first half of the season and go into the summer break with a magnificent Hungarian Grand Prix yesterday. And well, Lando Norris, I must be honest, Delucia, I thought McLaren would be there or thereabouts, but I didn't expect that kind of performance from McLaren. And what a performance it was, especially from the world champion. Great to see him get his first pole position as a world champion and his first win as a world champion. I think that's going to give him a tremendous amount of relief going forward.
Absolutely. He waited 260 days for this victory to come from his last win at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix last year. And now finally we see Lando Norris, our reigning champion, finally a Grand Prix winner in 2026. And the way that he drove yesterday, he said it himself. He said it was probably one of his best drives in his entire Formula One career. And I couldn't agree more. We know Lando loves the Hungaroring. He loves this track. And I think yesterday was testament to how much he really enjoys a track that is so narrow, that is so meticulous, and does require so much of you as a driver and concentration. But I mean, such a good day for McLaren on one half of the garage, and then on the other, Oscar Piastri. Let's be honest, it should have been a McLaren 1-2. But that gearbox failure, I mean, 14 laps towards the end of the race, it couldn't have come at a worse time for Piastri. And that includes, obviously, his incident with Sainz, which still, I don't understand how Sainz hasn't been fined for that incident or there wasn't any penalty given. But, I mean, one half of McLaren, we know the upgrades are working. We see it on the pace of both Lando and Oscar. That's a great way to go into the summer break, knowing that they've got that. But at the end of the day, it is still quite sad for someone like Oscar, who definitely had the pace, but it was just the car had failed him.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk on a little bit of Oscar Piastri. You got to feel desperate for the guy. He did everything that he wanted to do. Lando sat and said, "No, I'm faster." They pulled in Oscar. Oscar got stuck up in all of the traffic, and then all of a sudden, has this incident with Carlos Sainz, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I think there were 12, 14 different blue flags, and Sainz comes out and says, "Oh, no, he wasn't notified." It's on your dashboard, and of course, it's on the track as well. So that was inexcusable, and I felt desperate for Oscar. And then, of course, having the mechanical failure with the gearbox, I mean, just brought a miserable way for him to go on his summer holiday.
Yeah, and I don't know who's more unlucky, Piastri or George Russell at this point, because he was another one who also had a terrible weekend. I mean, George finished on the road in 7th, and also his start was terrible. There was anti-stall in the beginning. He struggled. This is not the first time we've seen this with someone like George Russell either, because on the other hand, his teammate, Kimi Antonelli, was on the podium yet again, grabbing a lot of points, ending 3rd. And, again, one of the situations where you are so happy for one side of the garage, but the frustration I can imagine for someone like George Russell, it probably comes at the perfect time that he is going on a summer break, because the last couple of races for him have been treacherous. There have been so many issues with the car, and I think that going on this month-long break is going to be exactly what George needs, just to kind of come back and reset. Because let's be honest, he's only 9 points behind Hamilton in the championship. Hamilton's only 50 points behind Kimi. So really, we still have 11 more races, 12 more races to go now that Malaysia is replacing the Bahrain Grand Prix this year, which is super exciting. We haven't been to Malaysia in so long in F1, so I'm really excited for that to happen. But I think that coming back from summer break, it will be very interesting to see how everyone else comes back and if George can really regain some of his earlier performances that we saw at the beginning of the year.
Well, the benefit for George is he knows that he's still got an incredibly fast car. And if you just looked at Antonelli yesterday, even when he ran on that long stint and he thought maybe let's go to the end, it worked out for him under the virtual safety car and all of those things. But his lap times on old hard tires was incredible compared to everybody else. So believe me, there's nothing wrong with that Mercedes. But let's just talk a little bit about George Russell, because the team, I'm sure, have come out and said, "Oh, yes, it was our fault and software glitch and this, that, and whatever." I've done some research. When you get into an anti-stall, okay, the majority of the time, unfortunately, it is up to the driver. Because the driver, now with the new start procedure, you've got to get those revs up. And once those revs are up, okay, you've got to hold on to it, and then you've got to release those clutches. Clearly, somewhere along the line, whether it's a software glitch, and I don't believe that. Unfortunately, I think it was George who just let the revs go too low, and unfortunately it kicked in the anti-stall. Of course, PR talk would be a little bit different. Unfortunately, it affected him terribly in the first half of the race, but for him to fight back into seventh, I think was a fantastic drive from George, and he'll be happy with that, but he won't be happy with the fact that his teammate, who started in seventh, finished second and finished ahead of his two main protagonists, and that being George Russell and Lewis Hamilton at this stage of the season. There's only 2 races in it. We have an incredible second half of the season to look forward to. But the way Kimi Antonelli drove yesterday, he'll be going in incredibly confident into his holiday break. Mercedes will come with upgrades. Red Bull have got to come with upgrades. An outstanding drive from Max Verstappen yesterday, but that's the end of that car. They cannot do anything else with that car. And we saw that the McLarens just left Max Verstappen behind. But all of the teams are going to come with big upgrades when we get to Zandvoort and Monza in the next 4 or 5 weeks. Let's talk a little bit about Ferrari, and then we'll talk about Max Verstappen. Ferrari opted for a different kind of strategy, and unfortunately, it didn't work out, and they needed it. They needed it to work on that first lap. And both of the Ferraris got swallowed up by Max Verstappen, bizarrely. Yeah. And he started on the dirty side of the road behind Charles Leclerc. It all went wrong.
Mm-hmm. It really did for Ferrari. And I think that there is so much frustration with the team because there is no doubt that we've seen in the last few races that there is significant pace in the car and that there is potential to fight with the Mercedes, which we've seen. So the fact that a Red Bull is now, a bit quicker than you and you can't catch up to a Red Bull is very surprising because that wouldn't have been the case 3-4 races ago. Someone like Lewis Hamilton, for example, when he won in Barcelona, that was one of, the highlights of his career in the last 2 years. However, in the last 3 race weekends, he's had 4 penalties. And just this weekend, he's had 2 penalties, one for impeding and then obviously during the race, the 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I mean, he was 0.1 kilometer per hour above the speed limit. And Ferrari have come out and they've said it was actually because he pressed the button too soon. And it's unfortunate that these happen. Again, driver error, it happens. It's not intentional. But you have to feel for someone like Charles Leclerc, like Lewis Hamilton, because I genuinely thought that we would have seen, maybe both Ferraris on the podium. That was what everyone was saying. And that was what everyone was forecasting because they've been so good in the cornering. That's one of their strong suits. And yet here we're sitting where we don't have that. We don't have any Ferrari on the podium whatsoever. I mean, Charles Leclerc has ended 4th in Hungary more times than he has on the podium. He hasn't even done that just yet. And the irony of all of this is Lewis Hamilton gets a corner named after him as well. And, on the road, he gets demoted to 5th place. So I don't know. Ferrari have some reflecting to do, but also I will give them credit for this. They're aware of all these issues. In the past, they would have been like, no, it's fine. We tried our best. Now they're saying our execution was poor. We're frustrated as a team. We're sorry that this is happening, but we also know that we do have the components we need to compete. And that for me is at least a different side to Ferrari in comparison to what we've seen in previous years.
Yeah. But I've got to bring up something here, and I'm not saying they must implement team orders. But if one driver is faster than the other on track at that specific time, there is a point where a team has got to make some decisions. And we looked at that first stint, and Lewis couldn't do anything about Max Verstappen, even though he was on brand new soft tires. Leclerc started the race on used tires. Okay, so maybe he didn't have the grip. But there was all of a sudden a point. The McLarens were going away. Lewis could do nothing about Max Verstappen. And Charles was significantly faster. And I sat there and I said, okay, let Charles through. And then what did they do? In terms of fabricating it, they brought Lewis Hamilton in. So it allowed Charles to go out there. But we know that the undercut in in Hungary is so big. So they basically sat there and said, okay, well now Max is 3 seconds down the road. Okay, go and try and chase him. Had they done it 3 or 4 laps earlier, they could have put more pressure onto Verstappen. They could have pitted Lewis then and then sat there and had a different strategy, and they would have come out ahead of Max Verstappen. And I think they really missed a trick there. And I don't know if it's ego or whatever it is, but I just sit there and go, the one car is significantly faster than the other. Let that other car go through and try and chase. And if it doesn't work, swap the positions back. It's not rocket science, but give them a chance. And then they sort of left Leclerc out to dry. I mean, he had no chance of doing anything else in that race. Max Verstappen, I mean, this guy is unbelievable. If you look at the remarks from Max and Isaac Hadjar over the weekend, they basically have said that this Red Bull is at its limit in terms of its development right now. Okay, so that was the most that they could extract. The move that that Max made on Lewis Hamilton was one of the most extraordinary moves I've ever seen in Formula One. The fact that he dove down the inside of him, didn't understeer into that corner and managed to pass Lewis Hamilton was an extraordinary piece of skill. And then from there, managed to keep Lewis behind him. And this is where I have my problem with Lewis Hamilton, Delucia. If you go back and look at people like Ayrton Senna, you look at people like Michael Schumacher, they never gave up. Lewis gets past, tries 1 or 2 laps, and then they're afterwards like, oh, okay, I'll just carry on driving. I was disappointed in that. I think that the car had a little bit more in it. He knew that those soft tires were going to go eventually, but he just sort of like, oh well, I can't catch him. No, you can. Push, go a little bit harder. That's my thought on Lewis.
And a race like it was this weekend in Hungary is where championships are won or lost. And I think also in the case of the battle between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, for me, it was more of a fact that Lewis is really in contention to win his 8th title. That is a fact. He is someone who Ferrari should be supporting more than Charles Leclerc because he's got actually more to lose. So it is frustrating for me when Ferrari don't make these decisions. And then also, when you are handed all these penalties and everything is, nothing's going my way, everything's going wrong, that energy of, I'm just going to give up, it kind of like, okay, well, there's no motivation to push even harder because someone who is struggling in a worse of car, like a Hadjar, like a Verstappen, are still able to take the maximum. Even though it might not be as much, they're still able to work around various issues and still go forward. And I think, Hamilton should have done much more. Yes, the penalties did work against him in this regard, but at the same time, you have to also just look at Max Verstappen and just acknowledge how brilliant it was, because for 2 people who also said that this was not going to be their weekend, they surely did put up a performance. Isaac Hadjar getting continuous and consecutive 6th place finishes in the last couple of races as well. Very well done from him. He's been super consistent. And Nico Hülkenberg, one of your favorites, finally getting points in 2026 with Audi. And they had a great battle at the back with Lawson, with Arvid, even Gasly in the mix at the end as well. It was just a great drive to see everybody else also fighting towards the end of the race and getting some really valuable points.
Yeah, magic for Audi, magic for Hülkenberg, and also the 2 racing bulls. These guys are just really pushing each other. A lot of people don't understand. They always talk about Antonelli at 19 years old. You got to understand, Arvid Lindblad is only 18. A lot of people, when you look at him, you think, oh, no, he looks older, whatever. No, he's only 18. So fantastic driving from both of these. Brilliant for Audi and Nico Hülkenberg. So happy, for him as well. It's bizarre that you look at the whole season and these are the first points that he scored. And yet he's been actually right up there and finishing 11th or qualifying 11th somewhere along the line. So great for Audi. But the biggest, I think, surprise of the weekend, and we've got to give the kudos to, is Aston Martin. Come with their upgrades. Alonso gets into Q2. After all of the performance, and yes, towards the end with the virtual safety car, Stroll finished ahead of Alonso. They were out of the points. But on pace, they were quicker than Haas. They were not far off Alpine, quicker than Cadillac, and quicker than Williams. From all of a sudden being behind all of those teams a race ago, all of a sudden they're faster than 3 of the teams out there. So I say well done to Adrian Newey and everybody at Aston Martin. And if this is things to come, I'm not saying that they're going to be challenging in the top 4 or 5 by the end of the season. But hopefully they're now on a better road in terms of development going forward for this season and, of course, into 2027.
And I think also because, I mean, bringing 16 upgrades is significant for a team. And the fact that they were able to really see an improvement from where they were. I said to you last time we spoke, my biggest goal for them is to be faster than the F2 and the F3 cars. And the fact that they didn't end last and both cars made it to the end with 0 issues is a significant improvement in the context of where they started the season. So I'm very, very happy for them. It's about time we see them come to the party because they were even faster than the Alpine of Colapinto, the Haas cars. You know, in that conversation, we have to really give them credit. I think maybe Adrian Newey just needed a break to step away from everything and just zoom out a little bit and do his own thing with no interference. And actually just do the maths himself. Sometimes you just got to do it yourself. And I'm very, very happy to see that they're part of the conversation. Unlike Cadillac, who once again, brake failure for Valtteri Bottas. He was a fireman. He was putting out his own fires there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It
concerns me because it's a safety hazard.
Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing. And you think of they've got the Ferrari power unit. They've got tremendous resources within Cadillac, General Motors, etc. And they just, I mean, if anything, they're going backwards. Very, very disappointing from Cadillac. The same I've got to say for Haas. I just there's no improvement whatsoever. And unfortunately, I say it. And you know that I'm a big fan of the Williams team. I always have been. But they are doing nothing. And I'm tired now of James Vowles saying, sorry, boys, it's the car. Sorry, boys, it's the car. Sorry, boys, it's the car. Well, fix the damn car. Get it right. You can't tell me that everyone else is progressing, but you guys are going backwards. I mean, yes, besides Sainz, probably just out of pure frustration that, he didn't want to see Piastri somewhere in his mirrors. But I mean, you feel desperate for Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon driving a bucket of bolts that seems to be way too heavy, has got no grip whatsoever. I mean, how they managed to keep that car on the track for the duration of the Grand Prix is actually exemplary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also is just so confusing because, last year we were fighting for a podium. We were battling in the top 5 consistently with Williams. There was so much excitement about what they were going to bring to the table this year. And to see that there still have been 0 improvement, the same as Cadillac, like you said, they've gone backwards. The fact that they are ending 18th, 19th, so far behind the pack, being lapped not once but twice is severely problematic for me. So I hope for them in the summer break, they do some serious recalibration of everything that they've been doing because it doesn't seem like anything is really working for them. They've got a Mercedes power unit, which we know is significantly quick. If they are able to maximize that component and then build around that, I guess for you and I, we can sit and be like, that's so easy. But I understand that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. But this hasn't been working for more than 6 months. So they have some serious redesigning and just to even come to the fore, because when last have they even scored a point? It feels like it's been forever since they've scored points.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. They've got a Mercedes power unit. Look at McLaren, look at Mercedes. They're the next one. And they are not performing. So, yeah, desperate for them. So we're going to the summer break now. Zandvoort, I think, will be as electrifying as Hungary. And the big test is going to come at Monza. Monza is going to be the huge test for all of these cars with these regulations, this deployment algorithms that carry on playing. So, yes, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but man, I cannot wait for the rest of the season. I'm not even going to say that it's Kimi Antonelli's to lose. I think this is still open to probably 4 or 5 drivers that could actually slowly creep into this championship. And I have a feeling it's going to go down to the wire. And I'm so excited that the Bahrain Grand Prix is taking place in Malaysia. It's the Malaysian Grand Prix. It's the Bahrain Grand Prix in Malaysia at one of the most brilliant circuits that have ever been designed by Herman Tilke. So bring on Bahrain, Malaysia.